Support for this show and all the others on the Marketing Podcast Network is provided by Memento. Yes, you can use AI to make your job as a marketer easier. Let me introduce you to Memento, the newest marketing partner of the Marketing Podcast Network. Memento is built to put the power of AI in your hands. It writes social media captions, it does your transcript, it does so much stuff, and it even finds moments, hence Memento, in your show that you can repurpose as audiograms and other great little videos and audio clips. Have it watch or listen to a podcast and suggest, then make automatically social media posts to promote the show. Heck, it can even listen to the podcast episode and write a poem if you want to use that in your company blog. It's AI after all. So go check it out. MPN listeners can try it free at bit.ly/momento MPN. It's bit.ly, bit.ly/momento MPN. Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. It's about the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, and how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. I'm your host, Seth. Today I have Loree Philip. She is the host of the Daring to Leap podcast. She is the founder and coach of weSpark, a coaching consultancy out of Scottsdale, Arizona, that helps women with their empowerment and career advancement. And I met Loree in the Podcast Academy. We were both in the welcome to the membership call, and we kind of hit it off, and we said, hey, let's collaborate and get on each other's podcast. So, hey, Loree, welcome to the show.
Seth, so great to be on your show and good to see you.
Yeah, this is fun. So we met, what was it, about almost a month ago, and on what was it, the Podcast Academy welcome
Yeah.
call, and we hit it off, and I was like, I should have her on. She has an interesting story. And that's what we're all about on the show. We're all about the interesting stories, the entrepreneurial journey, and you have one. So that's a good thing. Otherwise, I'm barking at the wrong bush here. So,
I do have one. We don't have to cancel right now. We have
oh,
plenty to talk
there we
about.
go. There we go. So who is Loree? Like, how did you find your way into entrepreneurship? Were you always an entrepreneur, or has it been like an up and down battle? Have you been a cog in the wheel, that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, I was definitely a cog in the wheel for 16 years.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah,
You're
so,
brave.
16 years at Boeing, it was one of those
Oh,
I got my first job right out of college at this amazing big company, and I stayed and I just took the next job and the
yeah.
next job and the next job at Boeing. And I thought I would be a lifer there. 30 years is not unusual at a big
Yeah, Boeing,
company
yeah.
like Boeing. And something happened during the pandemic
Yeah.
where this is actually I think happened to a lot of people where you just start to realize what's important and what's not
Yeah.
important in life because people are dying, people are worrying about their health, and you're all of a
Mhm.
sudden all the corporate BS starts to feel more like BS and
Yes.
like, "Hey, what am I doing with my life?" So, I definitely was a cog, and I left that full-time, comfortable gig
Yeah.
last year, actually, in
Oh,
July
wow.
to start my own business.
So,
Mhm.
so almost a full year.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Well, that's exciting. We'll have to have a party online, do a Zoom party. Yeah.
Yeah, we should. That'd be fun.
That'll be fun. That's exciting. And so you were at Boeing for, well, you said how many
16
years?
years. 16.
That is a
Yeah,
lot.
it
And,
is.
but you weren't in the same position I mean, you pretty much were jumping around, trying different things and all that. What did you
Yeah.
do at Boeing? What was your thing?
I started off in finance, so I have an undergrad degree in finance, and then I went into program management for a few
Oh, wow.
years, and then I ended up in strategy. So I did strategy for our defense business,
Classified.
8 or 9 years.
Nice.
What's that?
Classified. Ooh.
Ooh, I can't talk about it.
No, I won't dig into that though. That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, that's the good thing about being in a big company is that you can do a bunch of different things, and it doesn't always get boring. Whereas at small companies, I feel like some people are like, "I need a change." Like the pandemic, I've heard this a lot. The pandemic changed a lot of things for people. The people that were comfortable in their job were like, "Well, what else is out there? What else can I do?" Sometimes they changed jobs, went to a different business, different industry altogether. Some left their 16-year stint at a big, Fortune, what is it? Fortune 100 company?
Yeah, so it's a, like, Fortune
Oh,
50
even
on the
bigger than
cusp.
that.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
It's wild, yeah. So going into being an entrepreneur, it's being it's brave because you're going from something that at least used to be a steady paycheck and comfortable and not as scary. Now
Mhm.
it's hit or miss if you actually keep the job and all that stuff. But what in your mind, what is the best thing about being an entrepreneur?
So my dream of being an entrepreneur was about the freedom. I don't have a boss.
Mm.
I get to decide how I spend my time. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm the only one to blame if I'm spending my time not doing things that are productive, but at least I get to choose, right? So when I was thinking about, okay, maybe I don't want to be at Boeing forever. What else do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
This because my value for freedom is so high, I just couldn't see myself going to another company in a different industry or doing something like that. So I really wanted to create my own path and be in charge of my destiny in a sense.
Yeah.
And so that's what it is for me. Entrepreneurship is freedom. And if you want to do it in your heart, like this is what I want to do, you're going to make it happen. And so if you would have asked me 3 or 4 years ago, "Are you gonna go start a business?" I would have been like, "Are you crazy? No." But
Yeah.
because I was so comfortable in that
Yeah.
stability,
And you got to
and it
change
really
things. I mean, it
takes that.
wasn't boring. It wasn't like you were in the same
Yeah,
position for 16 years. I mean, in a big company, you can move around and you're kind of entrepreneur in that idea, but you still
right.
had that safety net. Whereas now well, hate to break it to you, and I think you already know this, you don't have that
Yeah, I
safety
do
net.
know this. I
Yeah.
was yeah, I was thinking about it, reflecting a bit on it, and it's like people who choose entrepreneurship, it's like not that they're being mean to themselves, but you grow up so
Mhm.
quickly as a person.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're putting out all your baggage out there, and it's like, "Okay, I gotta figure this out," because
Yeah.
it's just constantly popping up outside of your comfort zone and everything that you're doing. And so I feel like I've grown as a person so much more in this last year than I did for the prior 5 years, to be
I
honest.
love that. Yeah. And you adjust. And I feel like entrepreneurship, I've been doing this for 15 years. And, it's not a competition, of course, but it makes you grow up, and it makes you kinda think outside the box more, and the buck and honestly, the steal the saying from Truman, "The buck stops with you," it
Right.
really does, and when you think about it, you know, it's it's scary, and actually, we'll go into that question. So, being an entrepreneur, there's some good things, you get the freedom, you got you made the choices, it all buck stops with you. What keeps you up at night? What's the scariest thing?
Yeah, I think for me, the scariest thing was putting myself out there.
Mm,
So I was really, really comfortable
mm,
in my prior role, and I was kind of like a really strong person on the team. So I
yeah.
would, I'd have ideas, I'd create presentation, but I wasn't the person out in front leading the charge, being the face to the organization. And so when I switched into entrepreneurship, I thought I could do it and hide behind my computer, hide behind my classes.
Surprise! Yeah,
Surprise,
surprise.
yeah. So for me, getting past that fear of being seen in the spotlight was huge, and actually,
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I started my podcast, to be honest, Seth, was that I was like, "Okay, if I left to my own devices, I will hide. I won't post, I won't put myself out there. So I need to put something in place where I'm constantly showing up every
Yeah,
single week.
yeah.
And that's what the podcast was for my own personal growth, was pushing me forward with that.
That's kind of what the entrepreneur's enigma is for me, is that it gets me to an excuse to talk to people like you. Like we could chat, but that's still purpose. Like I get to talk to you, we get to dig into what you do. We're gonna dig into like, what weSpark does. We're gonna go into that and how you're empowering women to kind of do what you're doing, kind of feel empowered to make their decisions and stuff. And I mean, maybe I would have reached out to you and we would have chatted, but I would never have gotten Guy Kawasaki on the program. I would never have the gonads to ask Guy to be on the program, let alone then, cram his book down my throat to read it in a weekend so I'd be prepared. That was the most nerve-wracking podcast in my life.
Oh
Nicest
my
guy in the
goodness.
world, but, terrifying. So what is weSpark?
Yeah. So weSpark is a coaching and training firm where we go in and we support women, leaders, and entrepreneurs in basically building their confidence is a big piece of it,
Yeah,
to get them to think broader about what's possible in their career, whether that's if they wanna stay in corporate and do the next big step,
yeah.
or if they're an entrepreneur and they're just holding themselves back a bit in what they wanna do, just helping them move forward and get past whatever it is that's blocking them. And in my experience, I found that a lot of it is ourselves, as much as we hate to admit it. And it's like this double-edged sword of, um, I don't really wanna blame myself. I wanna point the finger at somebody else, but
It's
there's
so
a
much
lot of
easier to do that, yeah.
yeah, but there's a lot of freedom in having control. So, you
Yeah.
know what? If it's something in me that I'm holding back for some reason or another, and I can figure that out, I can move forward, and I don't have to rely on others to make that happen.
We're going to take a quick break, hear from our sponsors, and get right back to the show. Support for this show and all the other shows on the Marketing Podcast Network is provided by Memento. If you have your own podcast, you know how hard it is to produce and get all the cool little clips out and all that stuff. Promoting is half the battle. What if you could upload your episode, video or audio, and have AI pull out all the best moments for you to use in social media? Well, you can with Memento. Upload the video or audio, review the recommended clips, click the couple of buttons, customize the colors, fonts, and hit save. Instantly, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, Facebook, and LinkedIn posts all materialize before your eyes, all with video and audio embedded for dynamic promotions that drive people to the episode. And the AI kicks out show notes, even transcripts, and even social media captions. All you have to do is review and post them. Because you listen to this show, you get a free trial of Memento to test for yourself. Go to bit.ly/Memento MPN and sign up today. It's bit.ly, bit.ly/Memento MPN. I love it. And you're perfect for it because you've empowered yourself. I mean, in a big company, you can get lost.
Mhm.
Man, woman, they, anyone can get lost in it. But I feel like women, especially, recently have had to step up and say, I have a voice. Listen to me roar. I mean, that's kind of a cliche, but like, I'm as smart as you. Like to Annie, get your gun. Like I can do anything better. The whole saying,
Yeah.
and I feel like you're perfect for this position because you advocated for yourself at Boeing. I mean, where anyone could get lost
Mhm.
extremely easily. Like it's a big company, and now you're doing the entrepreneur thing. So and you just said you had to empower yourself to kind of realize that it's not going to just come to me. That I can get out from behind the computer and be social. Like like you're perfect. I honestly, I'm tooting your horn here, but like you're perfect for this because you're actually living it and then helping people live
Mm.
it.
Yeah, and as you probably found this with your podcast, is that there's so much power in a person's story
Yes.
and a person's lived experience that if you share it, if you have a willingness and openness and you a vulnerability and you share some of those trials and things that you've had to overcome with people, they learn they you have the power to help so many people learn so much without even working with them directly because they can get inspired from your example.
Absolutely.
Or I've had situations where people have reached out to me after a podcast episode and said, "You know what? Thank you for that. I don't feel alone
Yeah.
because whatever came up in the episode, they can relate to so much."
Mhm.
And so I do think there's a lot of power in supporting others with things that you've done yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a lot of authenticity and, credit that you get as
Yeah.
a starting point. Like, okay, I'm going to listen to her or I'm going to listen to Seth because
Yeah.
they've been there and they
Yeah.
they kind of know what's going on.
Absolutely. So what episode are you on of Daring
I just released 18 today.
Woohoo! Yay.
Thank
So,
you. I
you're past the mandatory 3 because everyone says that people in podcasting get to 3 and they're like, I'm exhausted, I quit." So if you get past 3, it's like if you get in
Is
entrepreneurship, if you
it
get pa
3?
I think it's 3, and I think if in entrepreneurship, if you get past 5 years, you're probably gonna stick to it. So you got
Yeah.
1 year under your belt over there, and you're past the threshold of the podcast, so good for you. Yay.
Thank you, Seth. I actually did one of those exhausting launch weeks where I had 4 or no, yeah, 5 episodes released in the same week.
So I
And
never did
then
that. I should have done
yeah,
that.
I did, but I started off with doing a lot of solo episodes, it was my own
Yeah.
content. And so 5 episodes that first week. I was exhausted after that. I
I can
swear I'm
believe it.
surprised I didn't quit because I
Yeah.
was, like, texting everybody I know, like, "Hey, did you listen to this? Hey, check
You
this out."
have to,
And
it's
I
just how it is, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually Entrepreneurs Enigma, you won't see these old episodes, but 1 through 10 are solo episodes of me just yapping, walking on grass in Vermont or stone in Vermont, pontificating about the entrepreneur journey, and then at 11, I went back to my journalism roots and started interviewing people, and I'm like, "This is where the podcast needs to go." So episode 1's actually episode 11. There's a little insight, but it
Oh.
happens.
Did you take them down?
I moved to a network and I never put the old ones up, so I kind of
Ah,
relaunched
okay.
it on the network, MPN, Marketing Podcast Network, and, never really, released his old ones 'cause they were rough. Even though I've been doing podcasting for 10 years, every time
Yeah.
you start a show, the first ones are rough.
I
They're just
know.
rough. Exactly.
Yeah, I did it was and it's a bit, intimidating if it's just your own content because it feels like, okay, people are really gonna either love it or hate it, or you're putting
Yeah.
yourself out there completely. It's not just you're collaborating with somebody else, and
Yes.
you can kinda share that space with them. So, yeah, it was a lot. I was on pins and needles releasing all my own content that first few weeks. It was
Yeah. So what is the premise of Daring to Leap? I love the show. I love the album art. It's very Saved by the Bell colors, and
it's
it's
fun.
bright. It's bright. It's
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
So, what's the premise behind it?
Yeah, so daring to leap is about daring to bet on yourself, step into your brilliance, and leap forward in your career. So it's a career podcast for women, but it's a mix of personal development stories. So we're now interviewing quite a bit of women who have made big career leaps
Yeah,
themselves to hear their
like
story.
yourself. Like
Yeah, like
you
me.
went from Boeing. Like seriously,
I
brave.
know. I'll have to talk to you about that because I spent a lot of time at that, plant in Ridley Park. Um,
Ooh, yes, you're in the Philadelphia area. Yeah,
yeah. And so what I aim to do with the podcast really is a career empowerment. So people come in and they listen to other people's stories of where they were, and they hear that, most people are doing something different now than
yeah.
where they started. It's not unusual, and you kinda hear, okay, what did they have to get through within themselves personally to make that shift?
Mhm.
And then we also talk a lot about, just all kinds of personal development topics,
Love it.
self-development, and so we're just be getting all the tools to be better in our current careers and then start planting the seeds of and maybe someday, maybe I'll do something bigger or chase my
Yeah,
dream.
I love that. So here's the big question. Don't be scared. This is not 60 Minutes. I'm not Diane Sawyer or Barbara Walters. May she rest in peace. But what is the most important thing to carry with you all the time?
Oh,
I love
the
this. I love when people go, "Oh, I." Yeah.
oh. The most important thing to carry with you all the time is your connection with yourself.
Oh, I love that.
And it's not a physical thing, but it's so important because when what really got me here to where I'm doing now is strengthening my connection with myself and really understanding deeply what I want, where I'm going, and that's how you become like the master of your own ship is
Yeah,
trusting yourself enough to listen. And
love it.
it's about self-love and that's where your confidence will come through if you start to pay attention to yourself.
That's fantastic. Perfect answer. A plus. There we go. So, Loree, where can people find you online? I guess Daring the Leap is everywhere you can get your podcasts. And if it's not,
Yep.
let Loree know and she'll put it there.
No, please
It's
don't let me
everywhere.
know. Yeah,
No,
yeah, no, I
it's
would love
I looked. It's everywhere, like literally
everywhere.
everywhere you can get
Taking
your
over the
podcast.
world.
And then
Um,
then We Speak LLC is where is that located? Is that at WeSpeak.com?
it's,
We
weSparkcoaching.com.
Spark Speak Spark. Ah,
It's
you
fine.
you are speaking, so it's not
I am
totally off.
speaking. I
Yeah.
am speaking.
WeSparkCoaching.com. Put all this in the show notes. You don't have to. You can laugh at me later. And then you are. And where's your biggest watering hole online? Are you big on LinkedIn? Is it Twitter? Where is it?
I'm biggest right now on LinkedIn, so if you could, find me there, be happy to connect with anybody, any of your listeners. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Put that at the bottom of the screen right there. Ooh,
Ma that
how
is
fancy!
magic, Seth.
Isn't that magic? And we can
I'm
also.
so impressed with your podcasting work here.
Oh, I'm fancy schmancy. And on that note, being fancy schmancy, we'll see everyone next time. That was a great show. If you're enjoying Entrepreneurs Enigma, please review us in the podcast directory of your choice. Every review helps other podcast listeners find our show. If you're looking for other podcasts in the marketing space, look no further than the Marketing Podcast Network at marketingpodcasts.net. Goldstein Media hopes you have enjoyed this episode. This podcast is one of the many great shows on the MPN Marketing Podcast Network.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Matt Bailey hosts a fantastic podcast called The Endless Coffee Cup. Matt, tell these fine folks what they'll get when they listen.
At Endless Coffee Cup, we go beyond the headlines with a regular discussion of marketing news, media, and culture about our complex digital lifestyle. Of course, with my emphasis on education, I have great guests from all over the world that share their stories, giving listeners unique insights into their experiences and expertise.
Sounds super useful. Where can people subscribe?
They can go to my website at sitelogic.com or find the show at marketingpodcast.net. Or hey, we're everywhere, wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard him. Go subscribe.
This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.